I am talking to Tony Perkins, one of my favorite heroes. He doesn't know that, but I've admired him for a long, long time. And I'm really excited to be having a conversation with Tony today. He has a brand new book out, No Fear, Real Stories of a Courageous New Generation Standing for Truth. And I encourage you to get the book. Here's what it looked like. Can you see it? Yeah. Here's what it looked like. And I recommend it for your children, your teenage children and others. I mean, it's just such an encouraging book to see young people standing up for God, for truth, and for what is right. Tony, I will tell you that 7 years ago, I had a lot of fear, and and I went to God about it. I asked him what was wrong with me. He allowed me to see that I had a lot of anger and bitterness in my heart. You know, I resented my parents because they were weak. My mother tried to turn me away from my father, and the worst thing you can do to children is turn them away from their fathers.
Absolutely.
And when you do that, you turn them away from God. So I had this hole in my heart, in my soul. So I asked God, long story short, he showed me that I had this anger, and that anger brought on the fear. And so he caused me to repent, and I forgave my parents, and when I forgave, God forgave me. And my whole world changed, my whole life changed. He allowed me to see in a way that I didn't know that you could see. You know, I can now see, whereas with the anger, I was blind. And he took away the fear I had, and I absolutely have no fear. And I didn't know that you could live a life. I had read about it in the Bible and heard about it, but I didn't know anyone who didn't have fear, and even the Christians had fear. But he took away that fear, that spirit of fear. I absolutely have no fear. And my mission in life is to love God with all my heart, soul, and might more than anything else. And he showed me my purpose in life, and I do it with all the challenges that come, the name calling, the threats, and the banning of some radio shows or stuff. I care about my relation. It's like I just have no fear, and I know that whatever he wants to happen to me will happen. Whatever he doesn't want to happen won't happen. I have faith in him that I didn't think that you could have.
That's a great story, Jesse, and thanks for sharing that, because that is absolutely true. And we have to get through those issues in our lives, and as you say, repent, confess, make right. And when we're in the proper alignment with God, and then we're in the proper alignment with those around us, you're right. There's nothing holding us back to be all that we can be. And that's a big problem. And I know you talk about this, but when you look at a liberalism, and it drives wedges between parent and child. And
Yes.
It creates this friction and this alienation, which holds back our children from being all that they should be. And we'll never be a whole society until our families are whole, because we and that doesn't mean perfect, okay? Let me
Right.
be very clear about that. It doesn't mean perfect, but it means that we have a true understanding of what God created us to be and how he created us to be. He created children to have a mom and a dad that love them and are in a lifelong relationship, a married relationship with one another. So that provides stability for the child, because we're seeing it. We do the research. We've got the PhDs that do the research here that show that when a mother or a father reject each other, that child is the one who actually receives the rejection and carries the burden of that, which leads in to bitterness, anger.
Yeah.
And there you have it. They lose their potential and they live under the darkness of fear.
I have a brand new book coming out November 24th, and it's called The Antidote, Healing American from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. And it's a gift from God, because it's about what happens in the families when the fathers are not involved, and the stuff you go through when you don't love your father, and anyone can relate to it. So the family, father and mother, I mean, it's number one, and when you don't have that, it'll take you on a different course. I have a text for you. Ask Tony about the idea of using the sinner's money for good. They want to know, I made the suggestion when the baker was challenged and put out of business by the homosexuals because they wouldn't bake a cake.
Yeah.
I said, here's what the Christians should do. Let's say the homosexuals come and say, hey, I want you to bake me a cake.
Right.
And you say, no, you're going to have to go to court, and a lot of Christians don't have money to fight that kind of stuff. So I say I would tell the homosexual, I am not in support of this. You know, I believe in God, and God doesn't approve of this. But what I'm going to do is take your money, I'll bake you a cake, and I'll take the money and donate it to Tony Perkins and other people who are fighting against you, and against the lifestyle. And that way you could use the money for the good. Mm-hmm. Am I wrong? What do you think about that idea?
Well, you I don't know if you remember this, a year and a half ago or so, you emailed me that on Facebook, and I thought it was a brilliant idea.
Yes.
In fact, I think you had gone further in that email that you actually, they should print a sign up in their window.
Yes.
And say, we welcome everybody, and if you want to, but we believe marriage is a union of man and woman, and if we're forced to participate in these same-sex weddings, we're going to take that money, we're going to give it to organizations that help people come out of the homosexual lifestyle.
That's right.
And put that on the door. And I shared that with a lot of people because I thought that was a great idea to say, okay, if we're forced by government to do this, then I just want you to know up front that all of the profit that goes from that is going to go to ministries that help people come to the understanding of truth and that God created them as male and female, as Jesus said in Matthew 19.
You know, my final thing to you, and I really, really enjoyed speaking with you this morning. One thing I've noticed about God and that the children of God don't have to worry is that it doesn't matter what the children of the lie are doing, how many laws are passed against the children of God. If we really have faith in God, he's always showing us how to defeat evil. He's showing us a way how to overcome. We are never locked in to any situation that we cannot overcome because he's with us.
And it goes back to what you said earlier, Jesse, when we're right with God.
Yes.
And that's the first place we have to start, is that our relationship, and that's not just talking about salvation, but I'm talking about, are we living in obedience to God? Is there any unconfessed sin in our lives? Are we harboring bitterness, hate, unforgiveness? And we deal with that. You're right. If we're following God, even though we may be in the midst of a nation that has rejected God, that's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be challenging, but God always sees his people through.
That's right.
That way, we don't have to have fear. Now, that said, you know, none of us, out of compassion for those who are not walking with God, should be satisfied in sitting on the sidelines and saying, well, not my problem.
That's right. I agree.
Our problem is our neighbor, and we need to make sure we're looking out for them.
The book is No Fear by Tony Perkins. I advise and encourage everybody to get a copy of this. You will not regret it. Tony, thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning. I absolutely appreciate it.
Jesse, great to be with you. Keep up the great work. You're a true American.
Thank you, my friend. All right, folks, take a break. Back in a moment.